This homeostatic process is basically achieved by a specific mechanism that is called negative feedback regulation or negative feedback mechanism. So the systems within an organism function in an integrated way to maintain a constant internal environment around the set point using this negative feedback mechanism. In very simpler terms, we can define negative feedback mechanism is as that the increase of a nutrient or a condition, increase in the condition within the animal's body, which disturbs the homeostasis, the body responds and produces some other compound that in turn decreases the same factor. Simply explaining that the increase in the blood sugar re- results into the production of more insulin, which ultimately reduces the blood sugar. राइट सो एक चीज़ के बढ़ने से दूसरी चीज़ के कम होने को नेगेटिव फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म कहते हैं. ठीक है. सो एनी स्मॉल डेविएशन इन द एनिमल्स इंटरनल कंडीशंस लाइक pH, temperature, osmotic pressure, metabolic fuels or metabolic waste, the negative feedback mechanism is activated, which ultimately decreases the disturbed quantities back to its normal state, or vice versa, when that blood sugar or body temperature or other nutrient levels are decreased within the animal's body, these feedback mechanisms tend to increase their production, their acquiring from their food or different sources to bring it back to the normal state. Right. So that is the negative feedback mechanism, and here is the mechanism of this process, where there are 4 steps. The number 1 is that disruptors, number 2 receptors, number 3 control center, and number 4 effectors. So what is disruptors? Disruptors are basically those stimuli which are disturbing the animal set points or body equilibrium. And then there are some specific receptors which detect that change and tells the brain, which is the control center, to perform and to start the negative feedback mechanism to reduce that or to bring that condition back to its normal state by using the effectors, which are the specific organs within the body which respond to the command of the brain and the control center. In this diagram, this is a very generic example. Here you see this bar represents that set condition or the set level of some compound. Say anything, anything it is. Then the stimulus is, we consider it that this is the blood sugar levels, right? So what is the stimulus? If the body consumes, or if the animal consumes excessive sugars in its diet, so that sugar level will increase, that will result into the imbalance of that homeostatic conditions. So this is disturbed. So there are specific cells in the body which detects the blood sugar levels and sends a message, right? So these specific receptors sends the message towards the control center, right? And control center do the workout and all the processing of that information and sends command to the liver to release more insulin, and that insulin reduces the blood sugar levels and bring the levels back to its normal, and it is balanced again. So half of this process is called afferent pathway, right, which takes the message from stimulus receptors towards the brain, and then half of this pathway is called the afferent, from afferent pathway, which results into the activation of the effectors to reduce the or to change the condition and bring it back to the normal, right? So this is a general mechanism. And if we talk about the specific conditions, so this is the body temperature. Once the body temperature increases, when the body temperature decreases, the body starts shivering. The message is sent to the brain, and brain sends a message to the muscles to start shivering, and it reduces the urine amount to be expelled from the body to conserve the body heat, and also it results into generation of the more heat by metabolic activities, and the body temperature becomes normal, right? So in the second example, if the body temperature increases, the sweat muscles becomes sweat glands becomes activated. They reproduce more sweat and more urine is produced, so that they take more heat away from the body, and the body's temperature is lowered to become to its normal state, 98.7 degrees. Right. So that was an example of a negative feedback mechanism. Secondly, if we talk about the blood sugar levels, what is the stimulus? Rising the blood glucose level by eating food, high carb food, and eating high sugar foods. So what happens that the pancreas, where there are specific cells, the insulin secreting cells, right? So these cells detect the blood sugar levels and send a command to the liver, right? So that liver starts storing more of this glucose within its cells, and then the body's sugar level becomes to the normal state, right? And vice versa. So this is an example of the blood sugar level maintenance.